Hey everybody, Sean here from VidGamiac.com. Here we are today back in the Final Fantasy X HD Remaster, doing the second part of the Overcoming the Nemesis guide. In this part, we will be covering how to get past all of the arena boss fights. As with any major post-game fights, the party you want to work with is primarily going to be Titus, Waka, and Riku, so make sure you have all of their celestial weapons fully upgraded, so you can check out our Weapon Master guide for that. You also want to have them as high of stats as possible, so if you're working on level grinding, make sure you get those three characters out of the way first, because they will help us take care of all the super bosses, and once they're all taken care of, we can work on grinding the rest of the characters. I'll have guides on how to level grind up in a separate video, of course. As for armors, it's right now you could start working on the ultimate armors. You don't need them necessarily for the arena fights, since the arena fights aren't too hard if your stats are high, but keep in mind you will need these eventually when we do decide to tackle Nemesis, and especially during the Dark Aeons. So here's a list on which you will need eventually, so make sure you start grinding towards these if you have the capacity to. If not, you don't necessarily need them for this step of the game. Now that we have all of the prep work out of the way, it is time to begin the actual fighting. I'm going to give you a basic rundown that should pretty much work for all of the bosses, especially if your stats are high enough. I'll also give some definitive strategies on some more esoteric bosses that have to be beat in a certain way. I will also be showing you how to do this just using your characters. Most, if not all, of the Conquest bosses can be beat just by using the Mega Sisters and Anima. So if anything, or if you're just starting out, you can just use summons and get away with that. Starting off in the area conquest, we are going to fight Strato Avis first. You can unlock this by capturing one of every creature in the Besaid Islands. This boss is going to play like your normal boss fight, so you are pretty much going to stick to the strategy for a majority of the run. First thing you want to do whenever fighting a boss is to make sure you have haste on your party. So if you have an auto haste armor on everyone, you should be good. If not, cast Hastega. After that, what you want to do is you want to break the boss's armor. And you have two main ways of achieving that. You can either use a frag grenade, which can be a normal use item, or it could be mixed using Riku's Overdrive by combining two grenades. The other option is to use Auron's Banishing Blade Overdrive, which also should break an enemy's armor. You can also use the normal armor break skill, however that only has a 10% chance of putting armor break on a boss, so that one's not too reliable. You definitely want to stick to these two methods. So after the enemy's armor is broken, you should be able to get your fullest potential out of your strength stat. So as with all these bosses, the skill you want to use is going to be Quick Hit. So with your main three characters, who should all have haste on them, if you use Quick Hit, the delay should be practically zero, so you should be able to land several attacks on most bosses before they can even scratch you. And this is going to be the main strategy going forward, is to just use Quick Hit and then pinata these guys to death. And you should be able to get through most of the monster arena with this method. Alright, on to area conquest fight number 2 against the Marlboro Menace. You definitely need either ribbon armor for this, or you can reuse the anti-Marlboro armor that we built when trying to capture creatures from Sin and Omega Dungeon. So definitely something with Confuse and Berserk proof on it. And make sure you start up the fight. If not, you definitely want to have one of these anti-status condition armors on at least one character. That way you can heal your other characters if they do get pinged with them. So once you start the fight, it will use Putrid Breath, which is going to be a super strong version of Bad Breath. It actually does damage to you, so Auto Protect helps out a bunch too. But whatever the case, what you want to do is you want to first heal any of your status condition dudes, and then right when they're picked up, continue our strategy. Hit this thing with a frag grenade or banishing blade, and then get to quick hitting it to death. Make sure you have Auto Protect on, or if not, cast Protect on everyone in case it does get a turn, and then once again just pinata it to death. It's not too bad as long as you can survive that first turn. This thing is very slow. It just hits you with the status condition and hopes that you deal with it. But if you make sure you spec yourself out to a point where you can be immune from everything, you shouldn't have too much of an issue dealing with this thing. Area boss fight number 3 is going to be Kodos. You unlock him after getting one of every creature from the Mihen High Road. He is going to be pretty tough if you're fighting him with low defense, so make sure you up your defense a bit. He will pretty much hit you with really strong counterattacks, so what you want to do is you want to first put Protect on everyone if you don't have Auto Protect. After that, make sure you break his armor, Frag Grenade, or Banishing Blade, and then start using our Quick Hit strategy to kill him. If he does get a turn, he will throw out 2 physical attacks, so once again, best course of action is to hit everyone with Protect and make sure you have a high defense before going into this fight. Other than that, he's very easy to defeat. Coral Regina is going to be unlocked once you capture one of everything from Mushroom Rock Road. Same armor setup you want for Marlboro Menace, especially Confuse Proof, because Blaster will put Confuse on you. Other than that, this thing has very low health, so if your strength stat is high enough, after breaking its armor, it will just fall apart in a few turns. So this one's another easy one you could definitely take care of, especially if you want to use the Aeon strategy. Up next is the Jose High Road Area Conquest boss in the form of Jormungand. He is going to be a Basilisk, so as with any Basilisk, come into this with Stoneproof or Ribbon, and you should be able to avoid his Petrification. Same strategy as the other bosses, basically make sure you break his armor and speed up your team with Hastega. His main weakness is he's very slow, and he's also vulnerable to the slow spell, so cast Slow or Slowga on him, and you should be able to win this if everyone has haste and quick hit without him even getting a turn. Next fight is against the Kaktar King. He is the area conquest boss for Thunder Plains. Very annoying to fight unless you have a high accuracy stat. If you do find yourself with a low accuracy stat, highly recommend casting 5 times aim and 5 times luck on your entire party, or also casting 5 times jinx on him to lower his evasion. So if that is too much work for you, or it's taking too long, what you can also do is you can also just spam overdrives. So Wakka's attack reels and Titus's blitz ace can do wonders because overdrives can't miss. So that's your best means of attack. Also, he has really low health, so if you do manage to knock a hit off, it will do significant damage. So you can either take the time to build up your accuracy and lower his evasion, or you can just overdrive spam him to death. Either case, he has such low health. He will pretty much be guaranteed to kill you since he hits above the HP limit, at least without break HP limit, so make sure you hit him before he can hit you. He does have a move that can wipe out your entire party, so you might want to be a little bit rushed on this, especially if your agility is slow and you don't have that many turns. So definitely, if you have low agility, stick to the overdrive method. If you have time to kill, or you're too lazy to fill your overdrive bars on the side, once again, you're going to have to buff up your guys before hitting this thing. If you do land an attack on him, he will counter with 10,000 needles, which will pretty much automatically kill one of your characters unless they break the HP limit. So if that happens, Auto Phoenix helps out a bunch, so you don't waste a turn trying to Phoenix down someone back to life. Other than that, if you have the maximum damage limit, you should be able to take this guy out in 2 hits. Next up is going to be Makalania's Espada. Highly recommend you have death-proof armor for this since he counterattacks with a move which will cast death on you. So make sure you grab one of those. You will also need it later on because some of the other boss fights require you to have death-proof. So good to get it out of the way while you can. Other than that, high accuracy stat and high evasion stat for this one. He's going to be very hard to hit, but he also has a very hard time hitting you if you have high accuracy. Once again, since he counterattacks with a move that auto-casts death, it will pretty much kill you instantly, but it is easy to dodge if you have high evasion. He also has very low health and can go down in like 3 hits, so if you can hit him consistently, he will go down really, really quickly. So once again, recommend boosting up those stats, and you shouldn't have too hard of a time. And just like that, we are on to the second page, going to start off with Beaconal's Abyss Worm. Not too much strategy to this fight, other than he has a ton of health, but just keep up our normal strategy. Make sure you Frag Grenade or Banishing Blade him, and then just quick hit him to death. He's very slow, and if you are absolutely struggling, the best Aeon to use against him is going to be Veil 4. The reason for that is his Quake ability cannot hit Veil 4 because it's flying, kind of like in Pokemon. So with that in mind, just keep quick hitting him, and eventually he should die. No real strategy to this. His attacks can be a little brutal, but then he takes a long time to whip them out, so make sure you are faster than him, and he shouldn't give you any trouble whatsoever. Now it's on to the Calmland's own Chimericus. He's actually really easy to fight since he will fight in a pattern. Basically, he will use fire, then ice, and then thunder, then a physical attack, and then finally a water attack. So just like any other Chimera enemy, your best means to beat him is to just use all of the null spells, and if you're struggling with the timing, just remember that order. Also keep in mind he has very low health, so you can actually kill him in like 2 hits if you have max stats and are hitting close to the damage limit. Very, very easy fight. Alright, Don Tonberry. Pretty much the only time you won't be fighting him in order to grind XP is when you actually try to beat him, so make sure you start up this fight. Only real strategy here is to have a high agility so you can get a bunch of turns, and make sure you have Auto Phoenix on everyone. So all you do is just hit him. He should counter with Karma, which is going to deal damage equal to your character's kill count times 100. So if you are using your more frequently used characters, it's going to do a ton of damage. But of course, if we have Auto Phoenix, we should pick them up. Also have a bunch of Phoenix downs for this. That might actually help also. So whatever the case, all you have to do is just keep hitting him. He will have his 5 turns where he'll step closer to you. Once he gets close enough to you, he'll use Chef's Knife, which will result in an instant kill. However, it can only hit one person, so he can only really damage one person at a time, so he's not too bad. He is also one of the fights where you can't really use Aeons on because he will use Voodoo, which will insta-kill any of your Aeons. So if you are going to use Aeons, just pretty much summon them, have them hit an overdrive or a big move, and then he will auto kill them, and you can just cycle out through all your Aeons. Once you have them do as much damage as they can, switch to your characters and just start smacking him until he dies. He doesn't have too much health. He just hits really hard, but other than that, you can take him out rather easily. Alright, on to Mount Gagazet's area conquest boss, the Ketala boss. This is going to be a behemoth. Like the Behemoth King, his major gimmick is he has an attack which he'll use after you kill him. So my best advice is to make sure you're prepared for that by either one of 2 things. You can first off use auto life on everyone. That way if your characters do die, they can pick themselves up after the fight. The second option is to go into this with high magic defense and then cast Shell on everyone. His post-death attack will be Ultima, so it is a magic attack which can be buffed up against Shell. If you have max magic defense and Shell on everyone, this thing will barely do a scratch to you. So make sure you do the prep work before his final attack can sneak up on you. After that, it's going to be your standard arena boss fight. Make sure you break his armor with a frag grenade or banishing blade and just quick hit pinata him to death. He has quite a bit of health, about 500,000 or so, but once again, there's nothing too bad about him. Pretty heavy physical attacker if he does land heave on you, so make sure you cast protect if anything. Other than that, his only real damaging thing is that post-death attack, so just be a little careful of that. But if you know, you should be prepared, and if you're prepared, it won't sneak up on you. Alright, the penultimate area conquest boss. This one is going to be Abandon. He is the area conquest boss for Sin. Pretty simple boss fight. His main gimmick is to use an ability called Pharaoh's Curse. This thing will put blind, silence, and poison on you. So you can go into this with either Ribbon or your anti-Marlboro armor. The big thing is obviously trying to prevent blindness because having your accuracy lowered sucks. He has Reflect and Null All on him at all times, so just watch out. Don't use spells on him, obviously. And you can take the time to block his spells by casting Shell on everyone. That way, if he does use spells on you, you can just take the hit. Other than that, same strategy, break his armor, and then it's quick hit pinata o'clock until he goes down. Alright, last one for this part. This one is going to be Vorbon. He is the area conquest boss for Omega Ruins. Very annoying to fight. The reason for that is he's completely immune to armor break, so frag grenades and banishing blade won't work on him. He has very high HP and a very high defense. My only real advice is to definitely use Celestial Weapons, because Celestial Weapons will ignore his defense stat. However, everything else with him is going to apply. Other than that, it's just same strategy. Haste and quick hit pinata him. He's just going to take slightly longer than everyone else because of his high health. But if you do have the max stats and the Celestial Weapons, it shouldn't be too bad. Other than that, he hits you with Mortar, which can be softened using Shell. So cast Shell on everyone before the fight, and that will reduce the damage a little bit. Other than that, there's no real strategy to him. He is literally just a tank, and the only way to beat him is to just pinata him. And once he goes down, that's going to take care of all the area creation bosses. We will be covering the species creation in the next video, so stay tuned for that. Other than that, that's all there is to it.